All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Park Ridge Candidate Forum. My name is J.R. Gonzales. I'll be your moderator tonight, and I'm also the president of the Board of Directors. Let me introduce some other board members as we have them here on the line. Let's go ahead and start with Susan Hambright. Let's go ahead and Susan, let's get her off mute. Susan, would you like to say a few things or anything to the audience out there before we get started?
Sure. I just like to thank you all for offering to serve and sending your candidacy in. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to a good next year. So thank you for wanting to work in your community.
Peggy, you would like to say, unmute yourself and say a few words?
Well, one positive thing I've seen from the COVID is that we have these Zoom meetings and we're actually getting more people in attendance. Now, some people may have their pajamas on or a shirt in their pajamas or whatever, but it's just good to see people interested and wanting to know what's going on and to offer their services.
Thank you very much. Liliana Vasquez was another board member who could not join us because of a conflict. And then you'll be hearing from David Dupont, who's a current board member, but also a current candidate. I just want to say, personally, it's been a pleasure working with each and every one of you this past year. It's something that is, as everyone knows, is a volunteer position, and we're very happy to see so many people excited and willing to serve on the board. It's a community effort. It's neighbors, it's volunteers working together to keep our community safe and to move forward. So at this time, let me go over what's going to happen a little bit. We have 5 candidates. We're going to introduce each one of the candidates one at a time in alphabetical order and as they appear on your ballot. So the first candidate will come up and they will have 3 minutes. 3 minutes, they can take up to 3 minutes of time talking about who they are and why they're running for this position. After the 3 minutes, they'll be have an opportunity for question and answers. So you in the audience can actually ask questions by going to your Q&A function on your Zoom screen. Go to the Q&A function and they'll appear on the chat here for myself and the panelists. So every panelist will be able to see every question and who it's from, and then I'll read the questions or ask the questions of each panelist and they'll answer accordingly. When the questions are done, we will move on to the next candidate and then repeat the process until we've gone through all 5 candidates. Once we've gone through all 5 candidates, we'll start at the top again to the first person and give them at least 1 minute of opportunity for 1 minute closing statement and any other things they'd like to say. We go through all 5, and then after that, that'll complete the process. As you well know, or if you haven't checked your mail lately, the ballots were sent on Friday. You should have those in your mailbox by today or tomorrow if you haven't received them. There will be an opportunity for you to vote multiple ways. Mail it in electronically. The instructions will be very explicit on your ballots. The ballots are due by December 4th. So make sure you have those things returned by December 4th. And then of course, the winners will be announced on December 8th. We're looking for a lot of participation and make sure that we have a good voter turnout. Hopefully it'll be as good as voter turnout as we've had in the US. More people voted this year than anything else. And if there's any questions as to the outcome of the race, I think we can, I don't know if we'll have to double count or contest, or I doubt we'll have to go to court. Not sure what court we'd go to, but we're all friends, we're all neighbors, we're gonna keep it clean. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and start. The first person who's gonna be up is going to be Joan Cooksey. Joan, allow me an opportunity to set the timer. I will be the voice off screen, and Joan, you will have the full screen to yourself. So at this point, the first candidate, ladies and gentlemen, is Joan Cooksey. Joan, it's all yours.
Thanks, JR. So I go by Joni instead of Joan, even though my given name is Joan. I've been Joni professionally for several years. So most people know me by Joni. I have lived here. This is my first home, and I moved here 4 years ago and have found this to be such a lovely, welcoming neighborhood with a diverse group of neighbors who all come from different backgrounds, but they also, I love the fact that we have young families and we have single people, and we have older people, and it's just a nice place to be. So I actually live by one of the retention ponds, so I have met many people because their dogs come and visit, which is a lovely place to meet people, and it's nice. I'm grateful that the retention pond is my neighbor. So I work for the state of Texas. I am the manager over policy and program development for the Blind Children's Program. We serve kids across Texas from birth to 22 who have visual impairments. I have spent my entire career in social services and am very committed to the overall well-being and improving people's quality of lives. So just from the core of who I am, that's who I am. I volunteer for 10,000 Villages of Austin, and I sit on their board, and I also sit on a national council for them. And I have been working with them since 2005. So I have lots of board experience, and I feel like I could bring that experience along with my experience working for state government, doing contracting and policy development. Those are skills that are often needed on any kind of board. Personally, I would like to see us continue to engage our neighbors in these meetings more frequently. I think that Zoom has been a huge game changer for people attending meetings. I know myself, I have been able to attend more of these meetings this year than I ever was in person. And so I feel like that has been really an opportunity for people to engage. And I would like to see that we could create some smaller committees where other people in the neighborhood could get involved. And that is obviously a great way to have people then have interest in actually being on the board through doing committee work and getting exposure and participation. That's it.
And that is time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joni. Anybody have any questions for Joni? Go ahead and put those on the screen. Joni, let me go ahead and start you off with one, if I may. It says, are you familiar with the governing documents? And we're referring to the Park Ridge government documents. Are you familiar with our government documents? And do you understand that it is the foundation of serving on a board?
Yes, I have read those governing documents. I will, when I became a homeowner, they gave us, the title company made sure I had those, and I read through those actually before I signed, to make sure I actually asked for them actually before I agreed to purchase the home, because I wanted to see what the requirements were as well as the restrictions.
Okay. I'm not seeing any questions coming up. I have another question for you. Both questions come from Susan Hambright. What was your reasoning for deciding to run for the board, a board seat? Excuse me. Okay. What was your reason for running for a board seat? And the question is, what do you think would encourage other people to serve our community? To serve in the community, excuse me.
So my personal reason is I feel like that if you want to see things change, or if you want to really understand how things work, you have to get involved, right? You cannot just sit back on the sidelines. You have to be willing to get involved and do your part. So running for a position is a way that I feel like I can contribute to my community and do my part. I do think that one of the ways you engage people, I think you guys have done a really good job this year it's a gift of COVID, right? That you had to do Zoom meetings. So people have been able to participate and observe more than maybe they have in the past. And as I said, I think the other way that you can really engage people is through having some committees that do specific kinds of things. Like I know that the neighborhood has had a lawn, like the lawn of the month committee in the past. We've had an architectural committee in the past. So those are kinds of things that we could do to engage people.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Any of the panelists can write in a question. If there's anybody in the listening audience that wants to ask a question. I'm not seeing any questions. Give it another second. All right. There being no other questions, thank you very much, Joni. Forgive me for calling you Joan. I was just going by what was on the ballot.
That is
Thank
okay.
you. Thank you very much. And the next candidate up will be David Dupont. So, Joan, thank you very much. David will be joining us.
All right, so welcome to all our neighbors, and I appreciate your attending tonight to learn about the candidates for Park Ridge Board of Directors. And I want to thank the candidates as well for being willing to serve their community. And Joni, thank you for a selfless career helping people in need. Social services is very important. My name is David Dupont. I've lived in Park Ridge for 16 years. I live next to the pond on Swanson in the very southwestern corner of the subdivision. I'm a husband to Amy, who regularly runs and walks the neighborhood, and I'm a father to Joshua, who's 6, and to Kado, who is 3. I'm a retired teacher and coach, and the last 20 years of my career I've spent teaching and coaching at Crockett High School, where I've actually taught many of the students who are from Park Ridge. Some of the qualifications that might make me good for service on the board. I have right now, I'm serving as a PTA board member for Joshua School. I have been in the past an executive board member for the largest teacher union in Central Texas. I created and operated a nonprofit that benefits Crockett High School the last 2 years. I have in the past owned my own business and I've worked for others. I have a lot of experience with budgets and with working collaboratively with other people. On the board, I've served since I volunteered to replace a resigning board member in 2013. For the convenience of another board member, I agreed to run in 2014 and ran unopposed, so I was successful. And then since then, the board has expanded from 3 members to 5 members, and I have 2 times been appointed to fill in where previous board members resigned and finish out their terms. In a lot of ways, I've helped the association over the past few years through unpaid labor to benefit the association. I installed the little library in the park. I've done setups and breakdowns of equipment for our meetings and for our social events. I've interfaced with a lot of our vendors. Right now, I presently manage the signage and the storage of the property of the association. I've used my truck to remove ugly items from the neighborhood, such as shopping carts that might have been left by homeless people. I'm most proud of maintaining the supply of pet waste bags in the park as of right now. And then I'm presently spearheading the effort to have gravel removed free by residents for our eventual replacement of the surface in the playground area of the park. In terms of what I'm interested in achieving for the association, I'd like to support Susan Hambright's initiative to pull together a community meeting to see what the vision is for our residents for the future of Park Ridge. I want to support Director Peggy Laughlin's initiative to have another pet waste station installed because the first one was very successful. I want to support Director J.R. Gonzales's efforts to promote more social events. And then personally, I'd like to pursue a water fountain in the park. We previously had a water fountain in the park, and then we want to have I'd like to have the one replaced that is not there anymore for people, for pets, and for kids. I'd also like to have some
David, that is time.
Landscaping done on our northern entrances. So.
Thank you very much, David. Anything you have an opportunity towards the end for your closing remarks, you left something out. We're open for questions. I do have a question for you, sir. You have served on the board and you served for a period of time. Why do you want to run for the board again?
Well, in part to finish those projects that have not been completed in previous administrations, including landscaping the northern entrances, replacing the water fountain that was removed by a previous board in the park in the age of hydration. I think that's important. And then we've worked on a project previously that has come to no avail of fixing the sidewalks on our front entrance. And I think our front entrance is very nice until you get to the sidewalks, and something short of a mountain goat necessary to cross our front sidewalks, I think would be helpful. I was also raised as a person through my religion, my family, and my education to serve others. And so I think it's important, if we don't support democratic institutions, to sort of echo what Joni said, you really have to get involved in the grassroots and take responsibility for your own community.
David, what could we do to encourage other people to participate in and serve the community as you have?
Right, that's a very difficult thing in COVID when we can't get people together. But I do think that there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of engagement. There are a number of issues, like Susan brought up last year at her election, the initiative to get a community meeting together to talk about the future vision for Park Ridge. And I think that efforts like that need to just be completed and followed up on. I think it's a brilliant idea.
David, are you familiar with the governing documents, and do you understand that it's the foundation of serving on a board?
I do, and I support the efforts of our management team. We have right now the best management team that we've had in the 16 years that I've been here. They've been stable, they've been responsive, they've been ethical, and they've managed our money very well. So I understand that the role of the management team to enforce the governing documents is supreme. And I also understand that as we move forward as a community and our community changes, that we do need to address some issues on the governing documents. Those things might need to be changed, would include things like height of sheds, certain restrictions on landscaping. Right now, you're not permitted to xeriscape by our governing documents, but many people do. So making things more reasonable to the 25-year-old neighborhood we live in.
Thank you, David. I'm not seeing any questions. I have one more for you, and then we're going to ask all the questions of the same question of the candidates. So we'll circle back around. Volunteering and working and balancing life can be sometimes time consuming, especially in this time of COVID. So the question I have for you is, would you have time to serve as a board member, to make all the meetings and to engage in the different activities that this neighborhood has?
That question's for me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I retired as an educator, and so I'm home full time, and I have meetings with my other associations twice a month. So I have plenty of time to provide service to the community.
All right, thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other questions coming up on the screen. So at this point, there's no other questions. No other questions. No other questions. Mr. Dupont, thank you very much, sir. We're going to go on to our next candidate. And that next candidate is going to be Blake. Let me reset my stopwatch here, and we will go from there. So, Blake?
All righty. I thought you were an auctioneer a second ago. Any questions? Any questions? Like, wait, am I in the right place? But as JR said, my name is Blake Moretz. My wife and I, Carissa, have lived here about 2 years on Biggin Circle. Love the neighborhood. It's our first home, so we've fixed a lot, broken a lot, continue to fix a lot of things. We've got 2 little girls, one that's a little over 2 years old, one that'll be 6 weeks old tomorrow, which is crazy. And I heard the term girl dad for the first time, and I didn't know what that meant. And then it made me feel old. It's like, man, how am I? Like, I'm 32, I'm not old, and I don't know these terms. So that was wild. But part of the reason I even tell that is I keep seeing so many young parents and just people around the neighborhood and parents that have older kids, and it warms my heart to see all these other people around. And I want to serve on the board to be somebody who's going to represent younger parents and really shape what our community continues to look like over time. And as far as some of my background, like, I've never been on a board. I've sold to boards in my profession, presented to boards. I'm 32. I haven't had a lot of opportunities to join a board. And I looked at this and I was like, yeah, I love my neighborhood. The people here, they've been so just personable in my life, and I want to extend that service to others. And it makes me think of a story from when we first moved in. My daughter was like 6 months old. We bought, first house. And of course I had no tools. Now I have too many tools, but I have nothing to cut my lawn. My backyard is getting like chest height, which I'm only like 5'6", so it's not like super high or anything, but still. And my neighbor Larry's texting me, he's like, hey, do you need help? Like, you can borrow my tools. I'm just like, the sale's coming up at Home Depot. I can maybe make it a little bit longer. And eventually I was like, I just need to accept his help. Like, I don't need to be so prideful and not have somebody that I don't know super well yet help me. And so he basically mowed my lawn, weed whacked it, let me borrow his tools. And so we've been friends for a while now. And just through that experience is one of the reasons that I want to serve on the board and just serve the people around me in my community and hopefully spur one another on to serving their neighbors around them. So I'm excited for the opportunity, and thank you for the time to give my 3-minute chat.
All righty, sir. That was 2 minutes and 20. That's 3 minutes, 20 seconds. So you got that. We're looking for any questions. We're looking for questions that may come up for Blake. Blake, let's go ahead and ask one of the questions that Susan brought forth. Is that do you understand our neighborhood Park Ridge documents, and do you understand that that is basically the foundation of being a board member and our form of governance?
Yeah, great question from Susan. Yeah, I read those 2 years ago. I have not read them since. So as far as I understood them when I read them, if I'm elected, I'm definitely going to read them and spend more time, but I 100% understand they obviously are the foundation of us as board members, but not going to sugarcoat, I haven't read those since I bought the house.
And Blake, what is your reason for running? And two part questions. What is your reason for running? And then also, do you have any ideas, or is there anything you'd like to suggest to get more people involved in the neighborhood?
Yeah. Part one, the reason for running is I've been served by the people around us, like Larry or Carolyn. We've had people bring us food when our second daughter was born. It's like, it just spurred me on to want to be a part of like what's happening in our community. And when we go to make decisions as a board, asking the question, like, how does this make us a better community? How does this impact each neighbor and the people that live here? And then the second part, I think through serving one another and people experiencing that, like, why did that person, like, it made me think, like, why did Larry want to give me like his time, his lawnmower? I think when we look to serve other people and we start actually doing that more throughout our neighborhood, that's going to be what spurs people and really encourages them to say, hey, like, somebody just did this for me. Like, I feel compelled now to want to go serve other people. So I think it starts with all of us taking more steps towards our neighbors, which can be scary, I guess, because COVID and whatnot, but looking at ways to say, hey, how can I help you? You live right next to me. And through those experiences, I think it will really encourage people to take more ownership and look for ways they can help their new neighbors and current ones.
See a question coming in. Let me get to that. Hang on a second. Need these. I'm old. I'm not as young as you are, young man. So I'd like to know from each candidate, can you respond? Are you willing to pursue the replacement of the drinking fountain in our park?
I'd love to go because I'm already going. Yes. I saw that little stub the other day, and I always bring my water bottle anytime I'm like out and about. Man, it would be so nice if I could refill this. I think every park usually has water fountains, so I don't know why we wouldn't, but I'm all for that.
Also, question I have, you're young, as you reminded us, making me feel old. So you have a family, you work, obviously, you have some other things to serve our community. Would you have the time, sir, to put in the time necessary to serve on the board and various committees and the social and the activities that the Park Ridge Board of Directors are engaged in?
Yes. If I'm elected, I'm committing 100%. So for me, if it's a go, I'm all in.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Let me check here. Any other questions?
Going once, going twice. I'll be on mute for a while.
Okay,
Oh,
hang
look,
on here.
two
We got
questions.
another the opportunity. Thank you for stepping up to it. Okay, we got a question here. I'm going to try to read it. Love the opportunity for recent additions to the Park Ridge. Park Ridge, thank you for stepping forward and putting your name in and running for the board. What is your opinion of conflict? What is your approach to objection and handling of those and handling?
Oh, I love these questions.
Approach to objection handling. There you go.
Yeah, as far as I think conflict's helpful, honestly, because if you bring out conflict or you bring out what's bothering you, hopefully at least gets resolved. It's actually funny. My neighbor, who I love dearly, they have dogs who bark a lot. And at first when we moved in, it was like, like, what do we do about this? We're the new neighbors. They've lived here. This is like awkward. And we had to be like, you know what? Like, we'll just talk to them. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? We'll talk to them, share. It's like, hey, we have a little baby. Like, here's the times that would be helpful if you're willing. Great. If not, you have dogs, they bark, we get it. So I think as far as conflict, it's more than anything is being willing to listen to somebody first and then respond to that. As far as objection handling, I mean, the only person that can really handle the objection is the person giving it. So as the other person who's receiving it, it's more or less facilitating that conversation so they can actually get to handle their own objection, because you can lead someone to water, you can't make him drink. So the same goes with those types of questions. So hopefully that helps.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? There being none. Blake, thank you very much, sir. We're going to go on to our next candidate, and that candidate's going to be Shirley Masterson. Ms. Shirley, you are up.
Okay, my name is Shirley Masterson. I've lived in Park Ridge for almost 10 years, and I live by the retention pond on Vision Circle. We love our neighborhood, my husband and I, and we've recently gotten married. So everything is new all over again. We have wonderful neighbors. I wouldn't trade any of them for anything in the world. I've been, we were with the board when the new wall was built a few years ago, and I was glad to be able to help with that. My husband and I did Yard of the Month for 2 or 3 years and really enjoyed doing that. I have been making masks to help with the COVID problem. I've made almost 1,000 masks, and I'm be making many more if anybody needs them, and I've given them away free. Other than that, I'll be happy to serve on the board. I love to help people and love to help where I can.
Shirley, thank you very much. And thank you for your thankless effort of waking all those masks. That was really great. We put them to good use.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, we're now open for questions for Ms. Shirley. We're going to go ahead and give it an opportunity. Shirley, let me ask you this, if I may. Why you served on the board previously? Why do you want to serve on the board again?
Just to get some new faces going on, and I really like to help out. And I figured if I was on the board, maybe I'd have a better opportunity to do that. I know committees are supposed to be formed, and I don't think that's a whole lot has been done about that. And I think that's a good idea. In fact, on the 30th of this month, a small committee that I've gotten together is going to be putting up the Christmas decorations at the entry of our subdivision. And if anybody would like to come join us, please let me know.
And Shirley, do you have any ideas, or what would you do to encourage other people to become involved in our community?
Well, that's always been a problem. It's always going to be the same people over and over with any committee or any group that you have. It's going to be the same people that do everything. And to get other people encouraged to come is just talk to them and invite them along.
Okay. I have a question here. If you were to get on the board, would you be pursuing the interest of, what would your position on a water fountain in the park?
Well, I don't have little children, so I don't go to the park probably as much as some people do, but I'm against the water fountain. We had one there at one time. It was nothing but problems. It was always getting clogged up. It needed repair often. There was always mud and debris around that area. And I wouldn't vote for it, no. With everybody carrying their own water bottles nowadays, that's a pretty good way to go.
And Shirley, are you familiar with our governing documents, and do you understand that it is the foundation of serving on a board?
Absolutely. I have read them in the past, and I think they need to be reread every now and then anyway, and I would certainly do that if I got on the board.
I have a question here from somebody that is actually directed to everybody. So if you have an opportunity to answer it in your closing remarks, feel free. Shirley, do you actually live in Park Ridge, or are you living someplace else and just coming in and running for the board?
No, I live in Park Ridge. I live on Vision Circle. I've lived here almost 10 years. I live right beside the retention pond. My husband and I sit out in the afternoons when we can and greet the neighbors as they walk by. And of course, say hello to all the dogs that join them. And we just have a wonderful neighborhood.
Shirley, I have a question for you. What would you like to achieve during your term of office?
Other than the things that other people have mentioned, getting more people involved, I think, is the best thing. Maybe getting more strict on our deed restrictions, but I know there's a lot of pros and cons about them, but we're not very strict on them, I think, and hopefully that would help improve our neighborhood a little bit.
Any other questions for Shirley? Any other questions? Any other questions? Scroll down. Seeing none. Thank you very much, Ms. Shirley.
Okay.
And our next candidate, which is the last of the candidates, is going to be Cole Wilson. Cole, you have, allow me just to set my timer here, and you have 3 minutes for your any statements. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to run for the board. It's also my first time running for one. I started volunteering when I moved to Austin about 5-6 years ago for the first time. And I had a random friend in town and she was like, I want to do something to get to know the city. Let's try volunteering at the shelter. And at the time I was a bartender down the street from here. But I was like, yeah, why not? Let's give it a try. And that very quickly became my full-time job, quit service industry, went all in on animal welfare, completely fell in love with it because, who wants money when you can help animals? And I just like being part of the community and part of the solution to the problems that you see around you. I love to bring inclusion to people, and I love solving problems, conflict resolution. I have been the unofficial HR person every single place I've worked, because I just am able to hear one person's perspective, understand where they're coming from, hear another, and be like, okay, this is what you guys have in common. Here's where we're going to need to, give a little on each side, a little compromise. And I think I have a good success rate at that just because I enjoy it so much. Quite empathetic, and probably I get a bit nosy because if I see somebody's in trouble, instead of being like, hey, are you sure you want me to come help? I tend to just kind of dive in. Someone's dog had slipped out from their gate the other day, and I helped wrangle and offered to patch up their fence. And it was a different house than the 1 year ago that I did the same thing for, because you just want to, I like to help my neighbors instead of pointing out any shortcomings or anything like that. I'm also a data analyst. So I love studying what were the problems with the water fountain before, how could those problems be fixed now to prevent them from happening again. I love research, it's so nerdy. I'm currently graduating from data analytics boot camp, and I have a few clients lined up, but it means my schedule is extremely flexible. So I can work whenever and wherever I please. I think that's about it.
All right.
Oh, sorry, I just remembered something else.
Thank you very much. Part of the question, Cole, in your opinion, what is the best way to include people and get them involved in our community?
I love subcommittee ideas. When I was walking by somebody's house the other day, they had a really beautiful manger scene. And in my cul-de-sac alone, there's at least 5 different backgrounds, a very diverse little cul-de-sac, and I love that. And I was like, man, what if everybody had like a representation of their home, like outside, like for everyone's decorating for like, you know, Christmas or whatever holiday, just decorating the style that reflects like your family. I want to walk down the street and see everybody's like families that they come from and their traditions and what makes them feel like home. Because I feel like that would just bring so much beauty and diversity, and celebrating that diversity, which I think is really, really important to the community, and being part of a community and not being silenced or shunned or feel like you can't join in. I don't want anybody to feel that way. I want everyone to feel like, yeah, you are super welcome, no matter how different you are.
Time. Okay, thank you very much. We also have, are you familiar with our documents and understand that's the foundation of a board and its governance?
Yes, sir.
And let me ask you this, if you were to be elected, what would be some of your priorities or some of your goals that you'd like to see?
I would like to see some of the verbiage get worked out in those documents, so that it's less confusing for when there are conflicts, like the whole sign business that happened a couple weeks ago. Also the xeriscaping not being allowed, stuff like that. So I think getting things up to date would be a pretty important thing.
Okay. And you may have answered it, but just to be very specific, what was your motivation, or why do you want to run for the board, or why do you want to serve on the board?
Honestly, the sign drama that happened very recently made me feel like there wasn't enough representation of minorities on the board, and that maybe if there was, people would be more inclusive and be more inclined to be more inclusive to their neighbors if they saw that the board had many different people representing. So like I would be representing the queer, non-binary, artist, nerd community. I love that. And it felt like some people didn't feel like they were being looked out for, even though they're our neighbors and they should be. So coming to fight for the little guy.
Let me check and see if we have any other questions. We have one here. Cole, I love they used to work close in the hood. And then with that in mind, and knowing that you're the hottest growing and the most popular space of Austin, what would you do to approach continued growth around our community? What would be your approach to continued growth around our community?
As in more neighbors?
I'm only reading the question as I see it.
What I see happening a lot in our community is people coming together and expressing themselves, putting on like fundraisers. Last night, a friend of mine who is a musician was part of a lineup that raised money for artists that are being affected by COVID and need some help financially. I saw another one of my friends put up a video for men being vulnerable and honest and telling their stories. I think it's very on trend right now for what Austin and I feel like most America needs, which is to come together in a very healing place. And that's what I would want to bring. I think the more that we did that, the more people would find our neighborhood attractive, because they'd be like, okay, you do care about people's feelings more than just HOA fees.
And wrap it up, Cole, what is your position, and I guess your position on the water fountain? This is, if you were to get on the board, what would you want to follow up on looking into the replacement of said water fountain in our park?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a water fountain's a great idea, and I wasn't here when the first one was, but finding out what everyone's grievances with the water fountain were in the past is the best way to make sure that we have a better water fountain for the future. Like instead of having dirt around it, having cement. We can even use maybe some of the gravel to make a cute little mosaic in it. So I'm also really big on not wasting and upcycling everything. So I think it sounds like a great, fun, artful project that people can get involved in.
Very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much concludes all of our candidates. For which on count, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to the top and start with Joan, and then go David, Blake, Shirley, and Cole one more time. You have 1 minute for a closing comment. And I think pretty much the question was asked. I don't believe that any of the candidates are just homeowners and do not live in our neighborhood. I believe everybody lives there. If I'm mistaken, please correct me on that matter. There's one or two folks, Blake, one of the persons wasn't clear on your answer, or they either missed it or it was omitted on what you do to be more inclusive in the neighborhoods. I mean, to have some of our neighbors more inclusive in the neighborhood and its activities. And of course, for those who missed it a little bit earlier, the water fountain seems to be a defining question that is out there. So you can choose to respond to those in your 1 minute wrap up, or not, that's fine. It's your minute. So we're going to go ahead and start with Joni. Let me set my meter here, and you have 1 minute for a wrap up. And I'll let you know, of course, but we'll let you finish your sentence when that 1 minute is up. So when you start talking, I'll start timing.
Thanks, JR. All I want to say is I really love living in this neighborhood. I think that we have a great community here of people who generally, I think, are very respectful of each other. And a lot of people who really want to know who their neighbors are, not just, come home and pull in their garage every night. And that is a difference that you don't always find in neighborhoods. And so that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you very much. Next person is going to be David. David, you have 1 minute, and we will not cut you off in mid-sentence, but when we'll cut you off, I'll let you know when the minute is expired.
Thank you, JR, and thanks to everybody else who has participated. I really believe that it's important to be involved in your community, and irrespective of the outcome of the results of this election, I would like to be involved and like to encourage whoever is not elected to the board to continue to be involved as well. I think it's important to look at the questions that are bigger questions that we refer to in our governing documents that might be adjusted to and make acknowledgement of our community being more mature than it was in 1996, such as trees and how we grow lawns and things of that nature. But I'm open to meeting and working with anybody. And I think if you look at the minutes of the board from the last year, you'll see most of the time all our votes are unanimous votes because we tend to work together in this neighborhood.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Next, Blake. Blake, you'll have 1 minute. We will not cut you off in mid-sentence, but when your time is up, you'll be notified. I'll start timing when you start talking.
All righty. Thanks, JR. Hey, Renee, I did respond to that question I did see in the chat. I don't know if you saw that, but to answer your question of a specific idea, I think it'd be really helpful if the board of directors were spearheading when new neighbors move in, as far as welcoming them. Maybe it's like a welcome packet, but as well as resources and other people in our community who already put their hand up, like Cole or David or whoever is like, hey, I want to help these new people. I think if I am a board director, that would be the one thing that I would really want to focus on, is how do we welcome those people? Two, this is not a lifetime mustache. This is a November mustache for November prostate cancer awareness, just so you know. I was like, I can't shave it. This is really awkward because I can't grow facial hair. I just felt compelled to tell people that this is not what I look like all the time. But other than that, I'm excited for the opportunity. I look forward to serving in whether I'm a board member or not. And just, it's such a wonderful place to live. And thank you all for listening to me the last couple minutes.
Thank you very much. And thank you for sharing your personal appearance and facial hair capability with us. Next one, Shirley, you have 1 minute.
I just want to say how helpful and wonderful my neighbors are. If something happens around, they always check their cameras. They always come over and see if they can help or that we can help them. And as far as greeting our new neighbors, I personally go to our new neighbors when we get one, which isn't too often, thank goodness, and take them some brownies or some, something to greet them, and give them my phone number and make sure that I'm available if they need help. And I know a lot of people do that. It's not just me, but it would be nice. Of course, I understand that we don't know if we have a new neighbor because it has to go through so much paperwork, and it may take up to 2 or 3 months before the board or whoever's doing this knows about them. So if you get a new neighbor, greet them and let them know that we're glad they're here.
All right, thank you very much. And next candidate, Cole, you have 1 minute.
I really love how hard the decision's going to be for my votes to be casted because there's just so many candidates that have great ideas. I love the welcome wagon. My neighbors JD and Al were that for me and made us feel very welcome to the neighborhood. Love them so much. To answer the question that Janet brought up in the Q&As was more about the like noise sensitivity and the ordinances that are around our neighborhood and how to help with that. I would love to research noise solutions for this neighborhood because I know it's a lot of people's irritations. They hear gunshots, cars backfiring, stuff like that. So I just wanted to hit that note real quick. Thank you so much for having me. And if I don't make it to the board, you will definitely see me in the safety meetings because I am a safety nut.
And that is time. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much concludes each one of the candidates. Want to thank you for joining us. As I said at the onset, this is a little bit different. We've had to make some adjustments in this world of COVID. However, I think this has been a very positive thing, as mentioned by one of the candidates earlier. By using Zoom and technology, it's brought more, seems to have brought more of the neighborhood together. We haven't been together as in person as much, and we miss those. We look forward to having those again. But at least this is a good way to be able to communicate with each other and make sure that we know what's going on in the committee. Just a quick little announcement. The Security and Safety Committee is looking for some members, and they want to do some stuff to encourage that, so we can get some of that stuff going on. Susan, I see you back online as a board member. Is there any comments you'd like to make in closing, Susan?
I just like to reiterate that I think it's great. We've got so many new people wanting to be on the board. I think it's important to get new people and let some people have some fresh perspectives on things. And you guys all did great. And I'm looking forward to seeing who we are going to be working with next year.
Outstanding. Susan, thank you very much. And of course, Susan, thank you for all the work that you do. Peggy, are you still there out somewhere? I'm not seeing. Peggy, would you like to say anything? There you go. I think you're on mute, Peggy. We can't hear you, Peggy. Does anybody read lips?
How about now?
Yeah, now we got it.
Okay. I just really appreciate everyone coming out. And I do think this is a great subdivision, a great neighborhood. And I'm glad that everybody wants to make it better.
All right. As I said, the other board member, Liliana's unable to join us. David Dupont, one of the other board members that is on the call. So guys, we look forward to best of luck to each one of the candidates. We look forward to seeing who gets on the board. There's a lot of work to be done. We also are going to keep in mind if there's committee structures and other things, and if some of you want to volunteer to start looking at some of those documentations and updating them, please let us know. We're more than happy to get more people involved in the process, because after all, the more people that are involved, the better decision usually come up with, and the more people get involved, the more comfortable they are. So when these openings come up, we can go ahead and bring new people on and give some of the people that have been here for a while a chance to retire a little bit or take a little bit of a break. So I'm looking at it. Note the time, please. The time is 11:51. We accomplished this within the hour. We're down to about 19 people that are actually watching the call that have been on there. But like I said, we're going to go ahead and record. This thing is being recorded. It'll be posted, and we'll push it out to everybody. So if they miss this, they have an opportunity to see it again. So with that, guys, take care of each other, mask up, be safe, and we look forward to seeing you again soon, hopefully in person, but if not, on our next Zoom call. And that will conclude this candidate forum webinar. Thank you very much.